Schoolboy Q is back with Blue Lips, but he's not only back, he's like proper back. He's back because this album has been met with a lot of praise and is considered a massive return to form, considering his last album, Crash Talk, was met with a lot of trash talk. And it's kind of been one of those things where it's like Schoolboy Q isn't on the forefront of many people's minds. He's not been on the forefront of hip-hop culture for quite some time. So to return back like this and drop an album that's considered really good is definitely welcomed for a rapper like Schoolboy Q, who's been such an important part of hip-hop for the past 10-15 years. He's never been like the main character, but he's always been an essential side character that brings a lot to the table and is just responsible for insanely mega bangers and really strong features as well. You cannot discount how important Schoolboy Q has been to the world of hip-hop since the 2010s, but it never really felt like we were going to get an album again from him that people were going to absolutely rave about. Like I say, it wasn't on the forefront of my mind, and I really don't think it was on the forefront of many people's minds, to be honest with you. But Yeern's 101, that was a track that made me go, okay. He's hungry, he's fiery, there's a lot of hard energy coming through from Schoolboy Q. He's just not holding up. The chorus was absolutely slapping, the beat was great as well. I was just like, yeah. And now the album's here. I've already talked about it in the tier list video that I did for 2020's rap albums, very briefly, a video that was absolutely not met with any controversy at all. But I did say in that one that I'd listened to it once and I thought it was pretty good. And I've got to say, with multiple listens down the line now, I'm still kind of maintaining that mindset. I think it's a pretty good album. It's definitely a return to form because Crash Talk was just pretty bad, to be honest with you. But I'm not exactly head over heels for this album. I think it's got some really, really strong moments. But also, you know, with it being such quite a lengthy track list, with it being an hour long, it's another one of those albums to me where it's probably becoming a bit of a cliche at this point. But I would personally cut a little bit of the fat, and it ends up averaging out at just a relatively good album that I enjoy, but not one that I'm going to be absolutely raving about in 6 months' time or anything like that. Funny Guy opens things up with a sort of chilled out vibe that's pretty nice and has a bit of like an Isaiah Rashad feel to the song, but then immediately after that you get to the proper meaty stuff for me with Pop, which is a track that embodies all of the best elements of this album. When Schoolboy Q just lets loose and just rhymes and spits over these really, really hard knocking, banging beats, the album is just absolutely at its best. And one thing I've noticed a few people point out is that while the album does have quite a few of tracks like this, it's not like the mainstay of the album. You don't get these hard hitting, knocking bangers from track to track. And personally, for me, I'd have been more than okay with like a 10 to 15 track album of all songs that sound like Pop, because when you get the Rico Nasty feature as well, I am just absolutely just so frigging good. And that's not to say some of these slower, mellower tracks or somber tracks like Blue Slides aren't good, because they definitely are. I mean, that instrumental is absolutely lovely. Kind of reminds me of some like 1940s style music that you might have heard during the war, but it's also got a bit of like a 1950s jazz feel to it as well. Absolutely stunning instrumental to be rapping over. Quite introspective as well, where Schoolboy Q is kind of like reflecting on the kind of gang banging days or whatever, you know, talking about how, like, you know, the things you had to do to feed your children, that kind of thing, while also the song has some references as well. It's like mental health, which could be sort of an indication that it's a dedication in some way to Mac Miller, given the title of the song too. It's obviously there somewhere. I don't necessarily think the entire song does the best job though of being a full-on dedication to any one particular thing. It's still a good song, but I don't necessarily think the lyrics totally hone in on like one topic. Speaking of the lyrics though, I actually think some tracks like Ohio and Foe, which are two tracks that come together, the lyrics actually are highlighted in a pretty weak way. I mean, Freddie Gibbs is on Ohio. I actually think his feature was a bit flat for his usual standards. But yeah, some of the like sort of stereotypical like hose references and money references that come on those tracks, particularly Foe, which is the chorus of the song, which is just literally like a sort of medley of like rap stereotypes in one chorus. For me, it just don't really ring all that well. And considering that Schoolboy Q is actually a pretty good lyricist when he tries at his hardest, it just comes across as a bit lazy to me. You've got Back in Love as well, which is absolutely off the chain. For me, I absolutely love this beat. There's kind of like Playboy Carti energy coming through on that chorus as well. And that kind of just like sort of punk energy that's just ruminating throughout the entire song just really reminds me of something that he would do, or maybe something he would maybe like embody as his style of music. Some of the tracks beyond there are pretty nice as well. There are just some that I'm just like struggling to latch onto or struggling to have a huge amount to say about, because it's either that the lyrics themselves aren't really all that essential, or the beats themselves aren't all that impactful to the point where I'm like absolutely, you know, woof about the song. But then you do get to Pig Feet, which comes right at the end of the album, which again just brings back that hard, gnarly, nasty energy, the violence, the aggression that is on some of the best tracks on this album. And yeah, it just feels a bit of a shame that this was saved until the very, very end. Just such an explosive song, and for me a reminder of how I just wanted nearly every single song to sound like this on the whole album, and it's just ending the album this way. I know there's like that shorter track that comes right after it, but ending the album in this sort of fashion just makes me think, God damn, couldn't the whole thing have sounded like this? I know that's a bit of expectations versus the actual reality in a way, because I suppose I'm projecting what I expected from this album onto it rather than the actual album we got. But even still, the actual album we got is full of so many good tracks, and so many great tracks actually. There's just quite a few for me that, you know, are fine. They're nothing too special, but they're also nothing too stand out either. It's just when you get to these really, really blistering songs that it really highlights how good these ones are versus some of the other ones. With all that in mind, I'll go 6.5 out of 10. I think it's good. Obviously it's an improvement on his last one, and I think it's as good as some of his other albums too. I've never really absolutely loved a Schoolboy Q album for all the reasons I may have just given in this video. Like, maybe he's never really quite committing to one style throughout an album. Maybe his lyrics are never at the very, very best of some of his contemporaries, that kind of thing. But it always ends up averaging out at a solid album. And yeah, that's exactly what I'd expect from Schoolboy Q when he's, you know, returning to form. A solid album. But maybe that's a hot take in itself. I don't really know. I don't really know how people rank or value Schoolboy Q albums nowadays. You don't really see conversations for some of his older stuff as much as you used to anyway. That's it from me though. That's my review. Not the most detailed review, I will admit that this time around, but you know, it is what it is. Not always got huge amounts to say about every single release. I liked it. Anything above a 6 for me is good. So if you're going to hang on to the score and be absolutely just remember that it's good. I'm calling the album good. That should be the most important thing. Is it amazing? I don't personally see it, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think. What's your favorite track? What's the worst track? Let me know. Tell me where Schoolboy Q ranks in the sort of modern day rapper rankings, I guess you could say. Like, is he one of the best? Is he good? Where do you think? Let me know. Subscribe, check out my Patreon as well if you want to support me over on there. Have a good day and goodbye.